We continue now with St. Louis de Montfort's preparation for the total consecration to Jesus through Mary. All our perfection consists in being conformed, united, and consecrated to Jesus Christ. He'll emphasize that over and over again. And therefore, the most perfect of all devotions is, without any doubt, that which the most perfectly conforms, unites, and consecrates us to Jesus Christ. Now, Mary being the most conformed of all creatures to Jesus Christ, it follows that of all devotions, that which most consecrates and conforms the soul to our Lord is devotion to His Holy Mother, and that the more a soul is consecrated to Mary, the more it is consecrated to Jesus. Hence it comes to pass that the most perfect consecration to Jesus Christ is nothing else but a perfect and entire consecration of ourselves to the Blessed Virgin. And this is the devotion which I teach, or in other words, a perfect renewal of the vows and promises of holy baptism. This devotion consists then in giving ourselves entirely and altogether to Our Lady, in order to belong entirely and altogether to Jesus by her. We must give her our body with all its senses and its members, our soul with all its powers, the exterior goods of fortune, whether present or to come, our interior and spiritual goods, which are our merits and our virtues, and our good works, past, present, and future. In a word, we must give her all we have in the order of nature and in the order of grace, and all that may become ours in future in the orders of nature, grace, and glory. And this we must do without any reserve of so much as one farthing, one hair, or one least good action. And we must do it also for all eternity. And we must do it further without pretending to or hoping for any other recompense for our offering and service, except the honor of belonging to Jesus Christ by Mary and in Mary, even though that sweet mistress were not, as she always is, the most generous and the most grateful of creatures. Here we must remark that there are two things in the good works which we do, namely, satisfaction and merit. In other words, they're satisfactory or impetratory, that means asking of things from God, value, and their meritorious value. The satisfactory or impetratory value of a good work is the good action, so far as it satisfies for the pain due to sin, or obtains some fresh increase of grace. The meritorious value, or the merit, is the good action, so far as it merits grace now and eternal glory hereafter. Now, in this consecration of ourselves to Our Lady, we give her all the satisfactory, impetratory, and meritorious value of our actions. In other words, the satisfactions and merits of all our good works. We give her all our merits, graces, and virtues, not to communicate them to others, for our merits, graces, and virtues are, properly speaking, incommunicable. And it is only Jesus Christ who, in making Himself our surety with His Father, is able to communicate His merits. But we give her them to keep them, augment them, and embellish them for us, as we shall explain by and by. But we give her our satisfactions to communicate them to whom she likes, and for the greatest glory of God. It follows from this that, one, by this devotion we give to Jesus Christ in the most perfect manner, inasmuch as it is by Mary's hands, all we can give Him, and far more than by any other devotions, in which we give Him either part of our time, or part of our good works, or part of our satisfactions and mortifications, whereas here everything is given and consecrated to Him, even to the right of disposing of our interior goods, and of the satisfactions which we gain by our good works daily. This is more than we do even in a religious order. In religious orders, we give God the goods of fortune by the vow of poverty, the goods of the body by the vow of chastity, our own will by the vow of obedience, and sometimes the liberty of the body by the vow of cloister. But we do not, by those vows, give him the liberty or the right to dispose of the value of our good works. And we do not strip ourselves, as far as a Christian man can do so, of that which is dearest and most precious to him, namely, his merits and satisfactions. A person who is thus voluntarily consecrated and sacrificed to Jesus Christ by Mary can no longer dispose of the value of any of his good actions. All he suffers, all he thinks, all the good he says or does belongs to Mary, in order that she may dispose of it according to the will of her Son, and his greatest glory, without, however, that dependence prejudicing in any way the obligations of the state we may be in at present, or may be placed in for the future. For example, without prejudicing the obligations of a priest who, by his office or otherwise, ought to apply the satisfactory or impetratory value of the Holy Mass to some private person. For we make the offering of this devotion only according to the order of God and the duties of our state. We consecrate ourselves at one and the same time to the Most Holy Virgin and to Jesus Christ. That's important to remember. To the Most Holy Virgin as to the perfect means which Jesus Christ has chosen, whereby to unite himself to us, and us to him, and to our Lord as to our last end, to whom we owe all we are as our Redeemer and our God. I have said that this devotion may most justly be called a perfect renewal of the vows or promises of holy baptism. For every Christian before his baptism was the slave of the devil, seeing that he belonged to him. That's just church teaching. We belonged to the enemy until our baptism. He has in his baptism, by his own mouth or by his sponsors, so for a little baby, solemnly renounced Satan, his pomps and his works, and he has taken Jesus Christ for his Master and Sovereign Lord, to depend upon him in the quality of a slave of love. This is what we do by the present devotion. We renounce, as is expressed in the formula of consecration, the devil, the world, sin, and self. And we give ourselves entirely to Jesus Christ by the hands of Mary. Nay, we even do something more. For in baptism, we ordinarily speak by the mouth of another, namely, by our godfather or godmother. And so we give ourselves to Jesus Christ not by ourselves, but through another. For in this devotion we do it by ourselves, voluntarily, knowing what we are doing. Moreover, in holy baptism, we do not give ourselves to Jesus by the hands of Mary, at least not in an expressed manner. And we do not give him the value of our good actions. We remain entirely free after baptism, either to apply them to whom we please or to keep them for ourselves. But by this devotion, we give ourselves to our Lord expressly by the hands of Mary, and we consecrate to him the value of all our actions. So stay with me. I know for some of you that's a lot of theology, but the basic sense that we're giving absolutely everything to Our Lady, and he's going to explain a little bit more about what that is and why we do that. Men, says St. Thomas, make a vow at their baptism to renounce the devil and all his pomps. This vow, says St. Augustine, is the greatest and most indispensable of all vows. It is thus also that canonists speak, saying, Praecipum votum est quodam baptismate facimus. That means the greatest vow is the vow of our baptism. Yet who has kept this vow? Who is it that faithfully performs the promises of his baptism? Have not almost all Christians swerved from the loyalty which they promised Jesus in their baptism? Whence can come this universal disobedience, except from our oblivion of the promises and engagements of holy baptism, and from the fact that hardly anyone ratifies of himself the contract he made with God by those who stood sponsors for him? This is so true that the Council of Sens, convoked by order of Louis the Débonnaire to remedy the disorders of Christians, which were so great then, judged that the principal cause of the corruption of morals arose from the forgetfulness and ignorance in which men lived of the engagements of holy baptism. And it could think of no better means of remedying so great an evil than to persuade Christians to renew the vows and promises of baptism. And a last word, so we're almost at the end of this lesson, but so the great teaching he's proposing here, he says, look, it's nothing other than a renewal of our vows of our baptism. We want to give everything to Jesus Christ to renew that, again, as we did in baptism, but we want to do it as well as possible, and so it makes all the sense in the world to choose Our Lady as the best way of doing that, by giving ourselves totally to her, that she can give us more fully to Jesus Christ. In the final paragraph, the Catechism of the Council of Trent, the faithful interpreter of that holy council, exhorts parish priests to do the same thing. So after the Council of Trent in the 1500s, there was this wonderful catechism that was given to every parish priest to teach their people the faith. That the parish priest induced the people to remember themselves and to believe that they are bound and consecrated to our Lord Jesus Christ as slaves to their Redeemer and Lord. These are its words. I'll read the Latin phrase. Parocus fidelem ad eam rationem cohortabitur uciat equissimum esse, nos ipsos non secus ac mancipio redemptori nostro, ac Domino in perpetuum adicere et consecrare. And so some of you maybe understand Latin, but the key word is this word mancipio. It says to help all your parishioners realize they are mancipio of their Redemptor and our Lord. And mancipio is a word that means slave or property. It's slave or property, something that just belongs. That's the word that the Church taught, to say we belong as slaves or property to Jesus Christ. And so that's what St. Louis de Montfort is going to teach us about, how to do that the best way we can, which is through Our Lady. So I will stop there. I wish you a very blessed Saturday in this beautiful month of May, belonging to Our Lady, and I will look forward to seeing you on Sunday for the Holy Rosary.